for all the complaints about what Biden's been doing with his aiding and abetting the border invasion, you know, Congress is responsible. I want to bring you up to date on this illegal immigration crisis. We've had two big stories in that regard. First of all, there was this tax bill that was passed by the House of Representatives. It was one of these issues, again, where Democrats and Republicans worked together over the objections of conservatives in the Hill to pass a tax deal that had two major components. One concerned tax subsidies for folks with children, and the other related to certain taxes tied to businesses. So the Republicans and the business community were desperate for those business tax fixes, and these were taxes that were punishing businesses that were instituted, or taxes, or I wouldn't say taxes per se, but as you know, businesses get the write-off loans and expenses and such, and in order to save money, government comes in and says you can't write off a business expense that you previously could. So that was a lot of what was at issue, and of course I'm being very simple in describing it, or very surface-like in describing it. But the other big deal was the expansion, as alleged by conservatives, of the child tax credit. Now, some conservatives were supportive of it because they believe that children are important and that parents, the tax system doesn't account for the costs in raising children, and certainly folks who are at the bottom of the economic scale need as much help as possible in terms of supporting their decision to have children and raise them. Now, those of us who think that people should be responsible for raising their own children, more or less, unless there's a dire emergency, that charity and government at the last possible, as a last possible stopgap can come in, you know, that's where the debate is. But that all being said, what was interesting about the tax fight this year, or this tax bill this year, at least in the House, is that the tax subsidy I was talking about for children can be taken by illegal aliens. That's right, you heard it. Despite everything you're hearing about at the border, another benefit of being here in the United States is coming here under this system, having a child, even though you're here illegally, your child becomes a citizen under what I think is a misapplication of the law. But that being said, that's what's happening. And so there are tax that you now get entree into tax benefits, such as which was expanded and furthered this week on the Hill. And no one knew about this. Now, I shouldn't say no one knew about it, because some people did know about it. We were upset about it. But I don't think a lot of conservatives on the Hill were as dialed in on it until, frankly, Judicial Watch, specifically through my Twitter account, I highlighted this issue on Wednesday morning, the day of the vote. Breaking: conservatives shocked and angered this morning with realization that big house tax bill would provide benefits to illegal aliens. Now look at the number of views there. Now, some tweets I know get millions of views, big tweets. 670,000 views, it's a lot of views still. And as a result, the Republican leadership on the Hill that was pushing this tax bill all of a sudden had a problem on their hand. And this was their explanation was, and they were forced to respond to the outrage that I and a few others helped generate here. I think Senator Mike Lee also tweeted this out as well. They said, well, illegal aliens have been getting tax benefits like this for years. Well, that's don't they see that could be a problem? And isn't this an opportunity to stop that? But they didn't, and it passed. Ironically, it may be the Senate, where conservatives are supposedly weaker, that may stop this monstrosity from going forward. and this tax bill from going forward. And it further highlights that for all the complaints about what Biden's been doing with his aiding and abetting the border invasion, Congress is responsible. I mean, and other governments are responsible as well. I mean, we saw this week, for instance, up in New York, police officers being attacked. I think there's some video of it. We'll play it as I'm talking. And these were aliens or illegal aliens. I'm not quite sure if they were illegal or legal or just, quote, migrants, which is designed to disguise whether they're here legally or not. And they get arrested and they're released without bail. So New York, being a sanctuary state in effect, or city, for illegal aliens also is a driver of the illegal alien invasion. And why would these individuals have respect for our police or the law? There's another video that went viral this week of some foreign nationals, shoplifting and confronting or being confronted. So this is lovely, isn't it? So this is kind of like the real-world consequence of the illegal alien invasion. I mean, there was a vote this week about whether to deport aliens who were caught driving under the influence. The Democratic Party and the left, not all Democrats, I think 50 or 60 Democrats voted in favor of deporting aliens who were caught driving drunk. But, the heart and soul of the Democratic Party opposed it. And this is kind of the left open borders approach. They don't want anyone who makes it here to the United States, legally or otherwise, to be removed once they're here. And then once they're here, they want them to be able to vote and get all the other sorts of benefits that a citizen would be entitled to. They want to eliminate the distinction between aliens and citizens here in the United States. And to me, that means you end the country, more or less. But be worried, because there is this immigration bill that's been, and I talked about this last week, been under, that's been planned through secret negotiations in the Senate for months. Remember, there was talk that they needed to pass this Ukraine aid bill, and they were going to tie it to aid for Israel, and I'm sure aid for Democrats and leftists. That's usually what aid is about. It's usually about the funding the left. And conservatives and some Republicans thought, well, this is an opportunity for us to get some significant restrictions on Biden's ability to continue this invasion. So it quickly turned into a bill, by all accounts, that codifies an invasion of the United States and says that you can have so many illegal aliens coming through, up to 1.85 million a year, 5,000 a day, 7,500 a day. The numbers vary since they were hiding the text of the bill. And until those limits are reached, there's no emergency. So I'm not aware of any time in our history where we say in federal law that as long as the invasion is limited to under 1.8 million, it's okay. And they're telling us that's a security bill. And so what the plan is them for the release it over the weekend, force the Senate to quickly approve it without much debate or time for consideration or public outrage, which is what they don't want anyone to be able to build by having time to do so. But that's going to be the bipartisan response of the Senate and Democrat leadership to the unprecedented invasion at our border, which is to codify an invasion. What do I mean by codify? Meaning put into federal law an out for President Biden to allow 1.8 million foreign nationals in the United States illegally before he's under law required to do anything about it. And now supporters of it say, well, that's less than we're coming in now. it's also 5 times or 6 times what previously has been seen in emergency. I don't know about you, but if one illegal alien gets over the border, that ought to be cause for concern, especially given the national security risks out there. They want thousands to come across the border a day before anything substantial is done. So they're going to be pushing this hard over the next few days. So I'm raising this with you because I want you to check the bill when it comes out, confirm what I'm saying is in there, because I don't know what's in there for sure. I mean, it's designed to come at us at the last minute. But look at the bill carefully, and if you don't like it, or you have concerns, or maybe you do like it, you can call your senators, call your congressman at 202-225-3121, 202-225-3121, and ask for your senator or congressman. Now, Mike Johnson, the speaker, has been out there saying he's not going to allow this bill to go forward. And you may have seen they're moving articles of impeachment against the cabinet secretary, Mr. Mayorkas. And I'm, again, kind of flabbergasted. I think Speaker Johnson's saying the right thing on this particular bill. But I just can't get out of my head that 2 weeks or so ago, Speaker Johnson, using every Democrat virtually in the House, pushed through a continuing resolution with only half of the caucus of Republicans to fully fund the Biden border invasion. So, for instance, Mayorkas is being impeached, or he's facing impeachment. He hasn't been impeached yet for activities that are fully funded by the House that's currently considering impeaching him. Again, it does not compute, right? It does not compute that that is happening. And it makes me think that the impeachment of Mayorkas, however necessary, is woefully insufficient. Because if things are so crazy that you're going to impeach a cabinet official for the first time in 150 years, well, maybe you should do things that are really within your purview as well in terms of government funding to shut down the Biden border crisis. I mean, our lives are at risk, our safety's at risk, our sovereignty's at risk, our national security's at risk, our children's future's at risk. I mean, there's a lot of money at risk here too. I saw a recent data point. He did a poll, and I don't know how accurate the poll is, and you'll laugh when I tell you why, because I think they polled everyone in the world, right? So who the hell knows what's going on there? But the poll concluded, and it was a legitimate organization, so it wasn't a Tom Fitton poll, if you know what I mean. I think 158 million adults, if they could, would come to the United States from abroad. So I asked dear open borders advocates, is this what you want, 158 million people here? And that's what we're going to get. 5 million a year, we get there pretty quick. We get there before you know it, right? And so Congress is yelling about Mayorkas. They're yelling about the invasion that's continuing, the violence of illegal aliens here on the streets that are continuously brought, in terms of their criminal activity, in addition to being here illegally, committing crimes of violence and other basic crimes that are traditionally prosecuted at the state level. They're prosecuted or arrested and then given a slap on the wrist and let out again to go on and commit more crimes. They're not even deported. So forgive me if I think that ought to be a priority, saving the country, right? But what do you think the House should have spent more time on last week? The tax bill, or making sure the country wasn't going to be destroyed as a result of the Biden border invasion? Or how about a compromise? Making sure that tax bill didn't incentivize the continued destruction of our country through the Biden border invasion. At least don't do any additional harm. But they didn't. They said they might get to it in another bill and fix it then. Yeah. Well, that's probably not going to work out well, right? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.